What is the best response to 1d4? We all have a favorite response against 1e4, but what do we do when white plays 1d4? It's an often annoying move, but I have a solution for you. And at the end of this video, we're going to talk more about a free opening course offer for you guys to take advantage of. And we're going to start by showing an example game from this line. So after d4, d5, we're going to simply grab equal space in the center. This is my recommendation for you guys. Pawn to c4, this is called the Queen's Gambit, and we're going to play the Slav defense. You could also play pawn to e6 to reach our desired structure. Knight to c3, we're going to play pawn to e6. Now we have what's called the triangle defense. This is not only a solid structure, but it's also dynamic and allows you to play for an advantage and play for the win. Now, if white plays an early e3, I'm going to recommend you go for the Stonewall Dutch, and these are really fun positions. But more commonly, you're going to see knight f3. So this setup is the most likely setup you're going to face against 1d4. And we have a somewhat rare line called the Semi-Slav Noteboom Variation that actually scores better for black than white at club level play. And once you get the move order down, this Noteboom Variation will become automatic for you. And this is something that you can play with confidence, knowing that your opponent is sort of going into deep water and you're the only one that's going to have the scuba gear to be prepared for it. So after pawn to a4, white is trying to regain this pawn on c4, preventing us from playing b5. But first we play bishop to b4, pinning this knight, renewing the idea of pawn to b5. Most common move at the club level, pawn to e4. Look at this space that white has. White is controlling all of these squares on the 5th rank. It looks pretty good for white, doesn't it? But we're going to play pawn to b5 now. So the knight is pinned. This pawn move is safe. And after bishop to d2, knight to f6, we're threatening bishop takes knight, followed by winning the pawn on e4. So notice how we're playing very actively here. We're playing for the initiative. We're creating threats, and we're trying to make white react to our threats. A takes b5. And now white is ready to win a pawn. If we simply take back, their knight will take. So we eliminate the knight. Bishop takes, c takes b5. Now, we're up one pawn still, and I'm going to show you the most common move for white by a lot. Most common at the club level, and it's a mistake. In all of our ChessGoals opening courses, we show you the common club level moves because the courses are designed for club level players. We don't show you grandmaster versus grandmaster lines. Pawn to e5. Looks natural, right? Kicking that knight on f6, but we simply play knight to d5, and our knight reaches this beautiful outpost square. Look at all of the squares that it can attack in white's camp, and that knight cannot be kicked by any pawns, and it cannot even be traded off by another minor piece. Beautiful square. Bishop a5. White tries to keep the bishop pair alive. Queen to d7 played in the game. And what Leaf is doing here is defending the pawn on b5. And the idea is b3 is coming. We want to meet it with c3. So our queen guards this pawn on b5 so that the bishop can't take it. I know it looks funny on d7, but that's the reason why. Pawn to b3, pawn to c3. We have the first passed pawn on the board. My common saying in endgames is passed pawns pose problems. In this case, we are not quite in an endgame, but that passed pawn could pose a problem for white later on. Bishop to d3. Be careful here. White wants the Greek gift. If castle, bishop takes h7 check, king takes knight g5 check, king out. Now there's stuff like queen to d3 check. This is a very messy position. It's unclear if white is better here or black is better here. You have to let the engine run deep. But we don't need to mess with this position at all. So after bishop to d3, b4 played in the game. Now that passed pawn is secured by another pawn. It's a protected passed pawn. It's even stronger than how it was originally. Castle, pawn to h6, preventing all this knight g5 stuff. Rook to a4. White wants to play bishop takes b5, winning the pawn back. Not so fast though. Knight c6 defends it. Bishop to e4. Bishop to a6, poking at the rook on f1. The rook moves. Bishop to b5, poking at this other rook. Notice how black is playing very actively, just keeps creating threats, trying to increase the advantage. Rook a1, and now black gets castled safely with the pawn on h6. Bishop to d3, and what white's trying to do here is simplify a little bit and also get a kingside attack going. So he kind of wants to bring his queen up, get that queen pointed over here at the king side. Bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, rook a to b8. Now, something that white has to watch out for. This bishop on a5 could potentially become a trapped bishop. So black has the advantage of the passed pawn, the beautiful knight on d5, and the potential trapping of the bishop on a5. So we have all these things to think about. That makes this a super dynamic position. And what is white trying to do right now? Well, white needs to go for the kingside attack. You see this pawn chain in the middle? These pawns point towards the black king. So that means that white should try to push the kingside pawns and create a kingside attack. That's exactly what he does. G4, knight retreats, knight h4, rook over, queen e4, and white wants pawn to f4 next. The queen helps defend it. Rook to b5 by black, pawn to f4. Here comes the pawn storm. But now we see c2 by white, just throwing that pawn up there. And at first glance, what I was thinking is, could white take the pawn? But if queen takes c2, knight takes f4, the king side starts to fall apart for white. The queen hits the pawn on d4, so white didn't want that line. Instead, he just blocks the pawn, keeps his f4 pawn healthy. Knight to c3 played in the game. We're on move 25. White resigned right here. And these players are around 2400 level. But white resigned in this position, and I'm going to show you guys why. It's easy to fall asleep on the fact that that bishop on a5 is a potential trapped piece. So after knight to c3, let's say queen takes c2 is played. Well, now there's knight to c6, simply trapping the bishop. And if bishop takes pawn, we have knight takes d4. There's no queen takes this knight because of the fork hitting queen and king at the same time. All right, well, what about the other option? What if queen to... Actually, let's look at queen to e3 here. Queen takes d4, pinning the queen to the king. And if the queen takes back, we have knight check, knight takes d4, rook a4, knight takes b3. The bishop is again trapped thanks to the fork of the rook on c1 and the bishop. So this game shows you guys how to defend against 1d4 with the Semi-Slav Noteboom Variation specifically in this game. Check out the link down in the description to the free ChessGoals Dynamic Slav course. It comes with a video that covers 10 different lines in a downloadable PGN file. And we also have a full Dynamic Slav opening course. That one comes with about 100 lines, and you get access to the coaches and the ChessGoals community, and we will help you guys learn how to defend against 1d4. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the ChessGoals community learning the Dynamic Slav with the rest of us.